Welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at the navigation icon. So we're going to create our own navigation icon that we then use inside of our navigation top app bar here. So this top app bar can be used as a navigation tool. It can be used as a menu tool. So the top bar that we're using here, this app bar view, has a top bar inside of it. So we basically just exported our app bar view into a separate file. And we did that because we want to have more flexibility with this app bar, and we also want to separate the UI elements because otherwise it would be, the home view would be such a huge file. So instead, we're going to go ahead and modify this top app bar in here. So I told you about this navigation icon earlier, right? The navigation icon is also a composable. So we can define a navigation icon here, navigation icon, and we can say what the composable should be that we want to use in here. However, I'm going to just go ahead and create a new composable app here, where I'm going to say val navigation icon, which will be a composable with no input and no output, nullable, which then for now is going to be an icon button. So I'm going to keep it as simple as that. So my navigation icon is going to be an actual button that we can click on. So the thing is, I'm using this in order for me to be later able to modify whether this icon is visible or not, because I only want it to be visible once we are on a separate screen. But I wanted to show you how to set this navigation icon up in this video at the early stage. We are going to modify this later, where we're going to say if the title contains a certain keyword, we want this to be displayed, and otherwise we don't want it to be displayed. So let's create this icon button. And what should happen once we click on the icon button? Well, I'm going to say whatever was passed as the on back nav clicked. So let me pass that here as what should be executed. And this is actually a function, so we need to call it inside of this on click. Now this icon button needs a content, or allows us to use a content which is of type icon. So we can just say, okay, let's import icon here, and I'm going to use the composable material, which should be good enough, I believe. We don't need to use material 3 here. So we have this icon, which now has a bunch of properties. So the image vector, so the image basically that I want to use, and I can just use the icons, and there is this auto mirrored dot filled dot arrow back, and that's inside of icons, not icon. So there's this icons Android X interface, which allows me to use arrow back. So you see this one here, like that. So there are different icons here. I'm using the image vector for the arrow back. Now you can look at what kind of filled objects you have. Well, the thing is, you see there are filled, outlined, rounded, and two-tone, as well as sharp. So these are the different types of icons that you can use. And I'm saying auto mirrored, so this allows me to automatically mirror it for people who are using an RTL style. So languages such as Arabic, you can see here, and Hebrew are read from right to left instead of left to right. So in their case, the back button would be on the right hand side instead of on the left hand side, or at least the direction would change. So yeah, basically that's what this auto mirrored takes care of. We don't even have to think about it then. And then I'm going to set a tint. So the color of that button, and I'm going to say it should be white, and then I need the content description, which I'm going to say is null. So you see there is this color. We need to import color here, and that's the one from UI graphics. I think should be fine. So this color here contains the default colors. So we saw in the last video that you can define your own colors, but this one you see has a bunch of default colors available. So blue, cyan, gray, green, white, all the good stuff. So if you want to have a specific color that you designed or your designer created, then you would not just use something like white here, or well, maybe for the icon button you would, but for other items you would modify this as you need it. So now we can use this navigation icon as the navigation icon of our top bar or top app bar. So now let me run it, and you see it's complaining about this nullable thing because we're not using nullable, or it's never actually null in this situation, but we're going to add that later on. So I'm just adding this question mark here already. So you see now we have this back button. Now you see currently it doesn't do anything, and that is because we haven't implemented what it should do. And where do we do that? Well, we do that inside of our scaffold where we call the top app bar, where we say what should happen once we click on the back button. So here we can pass this to our app bar, comma, and then you see we can add code here. So we can say what should happen once we clicked on the back button. So for now, just to see whether this button actually works, I'm going to add a context. So val context will be local context, this one here, dot current. Yeah, that should give us that. And then we're going to use toast dot make text with the context with button clicked as a text and length. So toast dot length along dot show. Okay, like so. And I need to put that on a higher level like this. So now let's run our application and see if we can actually click on this back button. So I'm just using this toast just to see whether the button actually works. And it says button clicked here at the bottom. So I click it again, you see button clicked. All right, so our back button works. We have designed what it should do for now. We're going to modify this later on, but that's it for this video. Now you see how you can add a navigation icon that will then be allow you to go back to pop that, and we're going to see how to modify that it will only be visible on any given screen that is not wishlist. So once we move to another screen, then we will see the back button, otherwise we will not see it. So see you in the next video.